Times I feel like I want to fly without no wings.
And away we go. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Barkoff. I'm the Sober Cold Bear, and welcome to another episode of the Sober Cold Bear podcast. Joining me is my good buddy, Jason Mayo. Hello, Jason. How are you, my man?
I'm good. Could we have a bloopers reel when we're done?
I know. Just for everybody who's here, this is about take 20, and I was having some mic issues, and so I had to I have a number of different issues, so I had to switch up this mic with this mic, and I have this mixing board, and I just become like this freaking ADHD idiot on steroids.
Wait, I just want to say, the best part about this is we started our conversation by you talking about, if I want a really good mic, I should get this, and talking about the mic.
That is true. I was bragging to Jason about my new Neumann mic that I just acquired and how fucking badass it is. And meanwhile, it's like when you used to walk through go through a drive-through and you were in high school and you fuck with the person that you're ordering a burger from. You're like, yeah, I'd like an order of French fries
so
and
good. I needed that
soda. Anyways, well. I'm so glad you're here, dude. And I'm so glad that we know each other and we're becoming fast friends. So
I'm looking forward to talking to you all week and cramming through your podcast, listening to really good people. So bravo to you.
Thank you, man. It's definitely a passion project for sure. Just to let everybody know, this podcast, The Sober Cold Bear, this is not a place to go to get sober. There are places to go to get sober. You can go to AA. You can go to rehab. I mean, fuck. I didn't go to rehab, but I probably should have gone to rehab, to be honest. But
same.
But I will say, this is a resource. This is here to help you. And we have some great guests on here. I cover a lot of things. I cover entrepreneurship. I cover business. I also cover sobriety and addiction, which we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about my buddy Jason and his new book called In Case of Emergency, Break Childhood. And we'll get to that in a second. But let me just go ahead and announce this motherfucker, because I'm going to tell you what, this guy is the shit. And we've gotten to know each other over the past couple weeks. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I'm so glad that we became friends. Obviously, we have people in common, which is incredible. Small world. So, guys, Jason Mayo is the creator and founder of Sober Not Subtle. He is a certified, recovery peer advocate at the Recovery Community and Outreach Center in New York. Before he got into recovery and worked in recovery, he was the owner and executive producer of an award-winning visual effects and animation companies, multiple, in New York City. He writes for online resources, including the Sober Curator, and has been a contributing writer to Forbes. Is that right?
Yep. Forbes Business Council. It's uppity.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And he's done blogs. He's done other things. And as I mentioned, the topic of today is in case of emergency, break childhood. And I want to read something to you, my man, Mr. Mayo. And then I want you to start with whatever the fuck you want to start talking about. And
okay.
I'm
scared.
You should be, man. No, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait for everybody to know just how you started this whole fucking thing. It's such a crazy story. Anyways, okay.
You better read lyrics to a Backstreet Boys song right now, or I'm going to be super disappointed.
I want it that way.
Okay.
I hope we have the rights to that. I probably don't. Okay.
You're fucked.
Totally. Okay. So it starts with, the memories of my childhood are like a nasty car wreck. Millions of tiny fragments of shattered glass and twisted metal scattered all over the highway. You can see the pieces, but you can't quite tell what happened, whose fault it was, or if anyone even made it out alive. You just know it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
Tell me, how'd you come up with this book, man? Start with something. Let's go.
Well, you'll appreciate this because, I believe in numerous pathways to recovery and tons of different types of healing modalities, but we're both AA guys, right? So we've found that out about each other. And the origin of it is, when I first got sober, I was going to a meeting in the city. It was my home group in New York City.
You're in Long Island, right?
I live in Long Island, but I worked in New York City for 30 years. I lived there for a little while, but I am a suburbs guy now. And if I have to go back to the city, it's only because of a Ranger game or like, I don't know, paying a bill or something in person. Who the hell knows? But anyway, so I picked my first sponsor, my second or third meeting. Fucking awesome guy. He had a mohawk and he was like a skater dude and he was
Dude,
younger
that's
than me.
rad.
But that's why I picked him. I'm like, okay, I had a mohawk once. And he looks
I
fucking
bet I'd
cool.
look good with a mohawk, dude.
You have enough hair still, so you should try it.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I picked this guy and he was great, right? And we started step work and he gave me a step one assignment. And the step one assignment was write out your drinking history.
Shit.
Okay. So I don't think he knew that I was a writer and I had a blog at the time and I just love writing. I think he figured he'll write some bullet points. He's got like a little journal probably or a couple of pages, whatever. And I wrote 15 pages, but I didn't write like highlights. I wrote from the second my parents told me they were getting a divorce all the way up until the last drink I ever had and everything in between. Obviously not like tremendous detail, but it read like a narrative. And I read it to him and, woke him up a couple of times in the middle of it. But when it was all over and I was done with my steps, I put that stuff on a hard drive. I didn't want to throw it out because I kind of liked having it in front of me. Put it on a hard drive and just put it away. Right. And it's weird because, when you speak at a meeting, you kind of tell the same story for the most part over and over and over again, unless it's a topic and you weave off topic. But I always had my story. Right. And about, I don't know, 14 years later, a year ago.
You've been sober for 15 years, right?
Yeah, 15 years. It was 15 years in March. So about a year ago, I was just going through my drive and I saw this thing and I was like, oh, do I want to open this? Because I hadn't read it since. Okay.
Crazy.
So I opened it and I read the whole thing and in between crying because it picked a lot of scabs, right? And even though, first of all, I was happy when I read it because I was like, okay, my story that I've been telling for 15 years is still true, right? Because I was like, that's what it was. It hasn't changed. But I'm reading it and I'm like, I'm kind of separating it in my mind of different sections of time in my life. And I was just like, I just want to write, you know? So I just started writing. And I separated, like literally separated the different sections of time chronologically into different pages. And I just expanded on all of them. And then I was like, you know what? Let me see if I could write like 10,000 words, you know? And then all of a sudden, like 15,000, 20,000. I was like, let me see if I can write 25,000 words, 30,000, 40,000. I was like, wow, I could do a memoir, And then all of a sudden it's like over 60,000 words. And I just was kind of obsessed for like almost a year. Like it was crazy, but never intended to write a memoir. Let's just put it that way. I mean, but thanks to my sponsor, I'm not going to say his name, but thanks to that dude.
I think that is like one of the coolest things a sponsor could do is basically say, write me your entire fucking drug and alcohol history.
Yeah.
Like just write it out. Like don't hold any detail. Because if you think about it, right, like we do step 4, we write down a list, we talk about like how much they pissed us off, we write down the character defects, and then all of a sudden we write our part in it. And then in step 5 and step 6, we realize that all the things that we saw in them is exactly what we see in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I bet that he wanted you to write that down because he could use all that information to basically train you as you go through the 12 steps. He wanted that as like his like fucking little cheat sheet, his little what's those books called when you like get the
Crip notes.
Yeah, the cliff note. He
Cliff
wanted
notes,
cliff notes to your life, and he didn't want to like spend hours doing it. So just write it out to me and let's go through it. And then he used that as the guide.
Well, you know what the next part of that assignment was? It was take 2 different color highlighters, okay, and go through it and highlight where you were powerless.
Oh my
and highlight
God.
in the other color where your life was unmanageable. And that was when I was like,
what were the colors?
Pink and yellow.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, pink and yellow. It's just like, but I mean, and that's a great assignment, you know, because it brings it together and it's like really throws down that first one. Like, because, you know, we come in here, we're super confused, we're ashamed, we're unsure sometimes of what's really going on. We have buyer's remorse, like, am I really an alcoholic? Like all this stuff. And
Yeah. So give me an example of each one,
of each one, what?
each of the two colors.
Okay. Well, one of the big things for me was I really didn't think my life was unmanageable because of all the stuff that I was doing, right? I had this like, you know, dad blog that I was writing that was successful. I owned my own company, you know, I had 2 kids, you know, and I seemed to hold it together on the outside, but, you know, I was falling apart on the inside, right? So he kind of made me see a lot of different things with unmanageability that was just below the surface and also above the surface. But one of the big things was with my family, okay, and how I behaved with my family, and
Mm,
that was unmanageable, but I didn't realize it. And one of the examples that he gave me, and this fucking hammered me right in the skull, is we were sitting one time
great
meeting.
visual.
Yeah, we were sitting one time meeting, and we're doing step work and reading in this bagel place in on you know in Manhattan.
I love New York bagels, bro.
So
Like,
good.
there's
I'll
nothing
send you a
fucking better than.
basket.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'll send you a
I was
basket.
just talking to my wife because we have a couple of people in town, and she took them to bagels, and I said to them as I was going out to an appointment, I said, "It's nothing like New York bagels.
It's so different. It's in the water
It
or
just hits right.
whatever.
It's really in the water.
It
I
is.
mean, it really like New York pizza, fucking bagels, like all that shit.
Chinese food, diners. There's a
Oh,
whole lot of stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff.
dude,
Anyway,
I have so many New York stories, bro, because I used to fucking like run there all the time. I used to do a ton of business there. Anyways,
ugh.
we'll keep going.
so the so we're sitting in this bagel shop and my phone starts ringing, right? And I just look at it, I hit ignore. Starts ringing again. I hit ignore. Ringing again. Ignore. 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 Finally, he's like, "Who the fuck is calling you, man?" I was like, "It's my wife." He's like, "Okay."
Answer
I'm
it.
like, "She knows I'm here. She knows I'm at a meeting. She knows I'm doing step work. She knows. Like, she's fine." I was like, he goes, "Listen, dude. First of all, answer the fucking phone." He goes, "How many times did your wife call you when you were fucked up and you didn't answer?" Right?
Oh my god.
Okay, and but that what that taught me right in that moment was, you know, I didn't beat my wife, I didn't beat my kids, you know, I didn't go to jail, but I stole so much emotional security from my wife and my kids just by not answering the phone or not coming home at night, or, you know, like she didn't know if I was alive or dead, if I was going to kill someone or be killed drunk driving. She didn't know if I was, you know, sleeping with someone, having an affair. Like she had no idea just because I didn't answer the phone. So, you know, that I learned how unmanageable my life really was, but I was so fucking selfish and blind to it that it just didn't even cross my mind. So I answer the phone when my wife calls. Suffice to say,
100%.
when she calls, I answer. It's, you know,
You know, it's funny. I was at a meeting some months back, and a guy that's still a friend of mine in the program. He's been sober for 5 years or so, and he said, you know, it was much, you know, it's so much more work. He said it very without really thinking about it, like we do this, right? Like he just said something to the degree of like, you know, sometimes we, you know, like it's a lot more work, this sobriety thing. And I basically said, well, think about this. Think about like all, because the way that I describe my addiction to my wife is every time I drank or used or was high or did something to break her trust, it was like taking a dagger to your arm, and the dagger would basically cut it open and be fucking bleeding profusely, and then you'd apologize, and then over time it would stop bleeding, and then you'd put a band-aid on it, and then it would get, you know, a scab, and then it would turn into a scar, and then you would relapse again or use again or do something fucking stupid, and all of a sudden it does it. And you know that "are you fucking kidding me" look?
yeah,
Like, I said to this guy, I said, do you know how many times that you fucked up, whether it was drinking or drugs or whatever, or like you were emotionally like totally unstable and you completely fucked with her mind?
yeah,
The amount of time that you actually spent getting back into her good graces,
yeah.
like rebuilding trust, rebuilding love, all those things, like the shit that we fucking did when we were drinking and using far outweighs what we're doing now in the program. Not to mention now it's healthy.
And relationship wise, the thing that, and I'm just realizing this now, and I think my wife is just realizing this now too. And this comes from a lot of therapy on both our parts and all that stuff and healing. But
Yeah.
what I don't think that we realized together as a couple, and we've been together 32 years. Okay.
That's
So
awesome.
what we didn't realize is that we've been together for a really, really, really long time. Right.
Sure.
But some things are different now, but we deal with it in the same way that we've always dealt with it as a couple. But the problem is, I got sober and I changed. Okay. So we both changed because of it. So, in a way, we've been together a really long time, but as a relationship, we're building foundation again. We're not starting from scratch, but our relationship is starting over. So, we can't deal with these things in the same way we used to. We have to like really gain a different and better understanding of each other. And it takes a lot of work, because I'm not the same guy, and I'm also like willing to be more vulnerable and share with her stuff that I did. She was used to being married to a guy that was pretending, you know, lying by omission, deception. Like she really didn't know me and I didn't know me.
Dude, that's such a powerful thing to say because you're 100% right. Like I've been with my wife for 26 years and we married for 22. And a lot of that time I either was fucked up, so I wasn't like emotionally present or mentally present, or when I wasn't, I was hungover, or if I wasn't hungover, I was just mentally just fucking out to lunch. So yeah, like the only person that she's gotten to know, the only person your wife, God bless her, has gotten to know over the most of our time, being together is the addict, is the addict side, is the character defect side of who we are. It's not the like what we are now. And you're right. Like we have changed and it's an education that we have to take them through all the time.
Yeah.
About how we've changed, why we've changed, what we've changed, who we've changed. This is what I talked about in my meeting. This is what I saw today. This is how I handled this situation. I didn't get fucking mad. I didn't get angry. Like those things, they're not used to it. I mean, I'm sure for her, for your wife and for my wife, like they're just like who the fuck is this person?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my wife read the book. Okay. She was one of the first people to read it, obviously. And I was really scared. I was really scared in general, and I still am because it's real now, right? So I have 100 people reading the book in the next 4 weeks, and it's scaring the shit out of me.
Dude,
right?
it's so fucking good, bro. I mean,
Thank
like
you.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Thank you.
But what scared you specifically about her? Was it the stories? Was it the message? Like what was it?
Because she didn't know a lot of it. Like when she was done reading the book, like we have a cabin upstate, so a lot of the time she was like laying on the couch reading the book, and I was writing because I wasn't done with it, but she was reading, I was writing, and I would just kind of glance over, like I'd be like, "What chapter are you on?" Just like because I'm like, "Oh shit, that's gonna fucking suck," But she said, I see she's laughing, she's crying, and when she was done, I'm like, "How did you like it?" She's like, "I loved it." She's like, "It's awesome," but it was really hard to read because.
Dude, it's like a giant fucking step 9, bro.
Well, she goes, "You lied to me for 18 years." That's what she said. She said, "You lied to me for 18 years." Almost like, and that's a scab, right? That hasn't been picked in a long time. And the book deals a lot with mental health. And, she knew I drank. She knew I had a problem. Everybody knew I drank. She didn't know about the painkillers. She didn't know about the coke. She didn't know about, shots of NyQuil and Benadryl. She didn't know about stealing her migraine medicine, her dad's painkillers. She didn't know any of that stuff.
I just did a step 9 with my father-in-law. He had Vicodin, and when we lived in California before we moved to Oregon, this is like 2011, 2012. He had Vicodin in his medicine closet, and we'd go over there for Sunday dinners. And I would fucking go up there when we were drinking wine and having cocktails before dinner.
Yep.
I'd fucking throw those down. I did that for years.
Same.
And I told him this. I told him this when I did an amends with him. And he was like, he's like, I figured it was you.
You can't refill like a pill case like you do a bottle though with water. Like you can't throw a couple of aspirin in there,
Well,
some jujubes.
I don't know who's going to see this or if anybody, but like, he's like, I figured it was you, but I didn't know who it was. So, it's just, Wow. So
Yeah.
so she read the book. She said, "I love it," but so did you guys talk a lot about it after, or is it just been an ongoing discussion, or like I do have some questions about the book too that I want to get into, but I want to finish up because relationships, man, completely fucking change when you get sober and you work a program. More importantly,
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. You know, we talked about it while she was reading it, and we talked about it after. You know, the mental health stuff was, and it was hard to talk about, and it's still hard to talk about. You know what? After all the healing and all the sobriety and all the therapy, I still have a very hard time talking to people about what's really on my mind. You know, and I don't know if it's still like being a little ashamed or just having, like, my therapist said to me, I always thought I had a problem giving love, right? I'm always like, I'm fucked up, I'm broken, I can't love somebody the right way, I can never get too close, or I always pull away. She's like, she's like, I don't really think you have a problem giving love. I think your problem is accepting the love. And I was like, oh, motherfucker. And she's right. She's right. I don't know how to accept love from people. And it's because my fucking parents got divorced, disappointed the fuck out of me. My world was turned upside down, and I shut the door on everyone. I'm
so
pretty good at giving love. I have a very hard time accepting it. And
so I saw my therapist today, like legitimately, like an hour and a half ago, and we literally were having this conversation. You know, like I used to do like harm to myself. I used to hit myself when I was a kid. I used to do like, I mean, I have a lot of childhood trauma that I've had to work through. Like I was bullied as a kid. I didn't have a lot of friends. I got through it, but there's a lot of things that are, blackouts. So a lot of the harm that I did to myself, and that obviously this comes through time and therapy and treatment and, all the shit that we go through. But, up until recently, I didn't love myself. I didn't even like myself for that matter. And what I'm learning slowly is that I have to love myself, and it's okay that these things happened in the past, but like I love everybody else. I love my kids, I love my wife, I love my friends,
yeah,
I'm good to people, but I'm not good to myself. Why is that? And that is the fundamental like nature of the core addict. They
yeah,
don't love themselves. They don't feel comfortable in their skin, and therefore when they face something really challenging, they drink. They do
right.
something to get out of their own way. It's the solution.
I'm glad that you brought up trauma, and I love the podcast with Vig, right? You guys
Mhm.
talked a lot about childhood trauma, and I was
Yep.
like, couldn't like break away from it, because this is the problem, right? And we can talk about stigma all day long. All right.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
So there's stigma, in recovery, there's stigma outside of recovery, there's stigma about mental health, there's stigma about everything. But that stigma, just slice it in half and just talk about the stigma against the men. Okay. Especially with mental health. It's such a problem, because, we're brought up as guys just to think that, like, we can handle it. Like, we can handle it. And how old? You're a little younger than me, right? You're 52, something like that.
Almost 52,
Yeah.
51.
So you're Gen X, right? So on top of being a guy in this thing, we're also Gen X. So we were taught to just fucking go do it. Don't figure it out. So when it comes to stigma, though, you know, we don't talk about any of that shit, right? But trauma is even more than that. I don't think people realize what is considered trauma. Okay, because for me, when I heard the word trauma, I always thought battered wives, domestic violence, vets coming home with limbs blown off, horrible car wrecks, losing a loved one in a horrible, horrible way. Like, that's what I associated trauma with. Okay, so my whole life, I'm going through all this stuff, not knowing where the problems are coming from, all the, mental health concerns I'm dealing with, the depression and the anxiety. And not for a second did I ever think that my parents getting divorced when I was 8 years old or whatever it was a form of trauma at
Hmm.
all. Never even considered it. And when I finally realized is, about 2.5 years ago when I was doing the training, a lot of the training for the peer advocacy thing, there was a whole unit on trauma and childhood trauma, especially. And there's a test called the ACEs test. I don't know if you've ever taken the ACEs test, but look it up after this. It's called ACEs, ACES, right? And it's like a 10-question test that you answer about childhood trauma.
Adverse
And
childhood experiences.
there it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Do yourself a favor and take that test, because I thought I was going to get a 0, but I didn't. And I was like, oh my God, I have fucking trauma. Right. But which is great because it allowed me to actually
take it. I already know that I had trauma.
Well, I think it's just interesting because
no, I will.
Like,
This is cool.
a lot of people don't, like, they look away, right? But as a kid, my fucking parents got divorced. My dad moved 2 states away, and my mom is like a fucking wreck. Now she's all of a sudden got 2 jobs. We got a tenant in the house. We don't have any money. I'm scared because we're gonna go broke. I'm ashamed to bring friends over. Like, my whole world was turned upside. I had a little brother that I had to take care of now. And that literally shaped who I am.
Well, dude, and my parents, same thing. My dad was an only child. My mom had a brother who passed away, and her dad was an addict and died at a reasonably young age. I think like in his like mid 60s, but massive drug use, gambling, all sorts of shit. Where so obviously I know where my addiction comes from, both sides. But that generation, which is the boomer generation, right? Like, they were taught to just like not say shit.
Right.
Not say shit, fucking, do what you're told and that's it, right?
Yep.
Like, we were in kind of the soft generation where everything was kind of spoken but unspoken. My mom, she was awesome. Like, I have great parents and stuff, but like anything, like the things that she did, like for instance, like she took me out of kindergarten childhood. Jesus Christ. What the fuck is happening?
You got to write a book.
I'll get to it. But I did half of kindergarten and they thought I was like advanced. So they moved me into first grade, but that fucked me up.
Yeah.
That little thing fucked me up because I basically spent the rest of first grade trying to earn friends, and I completely turned into this and I was fucking ADHD and I was crazy and I drove people crazy and I annoyed the fuck out of people, and people I became this target.
Right.
And that became my trauma. So I've had to go back and revisit all that stuff and talk about it. And that's the crazy part about how trauma happens in all these flavors, to your point.
Right. And just to go back to your situation, like pulling you out of a grade and putting you to another grade because you're more advanced. The problem with that is, and this has probably played a part in it. The problem with that is, you're put in a certain grade at a certain age for a couple of different reasons, right? One is because of the curriculum, but the other thing is because the age of the other kids. So if you're with 5-year-olds, right, and you're developing the same way your brain is developed,
the mental difference between a 5 and a 6-year-old is huge.
Yes, and even the physical difference.
100%.
So you went from being up here to all of a sudden
I was always
being
a big kid. A big kid, but there's a reason why they said everything that I learned in the kindergarten.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I don't even know what the name. It's something like that, right? But those little things, to your point, those things cause trauma, and and then of course, fast forward to when we're in our 50s and we're sober, and now we're going back and looking at it, and it's like you've written this book, and boom.
Yeah.
So so I think, by the way, I think we should do a part 2 of this. I don't think we're going to cover everything in one podcast, man. I just don't.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right,
I got a lot of time.
We'll have to definitely want to do a second one, but I just
have me back on when the book comes out. How about that?
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of sections. I don't want to give away any of the names of the chapters or anything like that. But when you started writing this thing, what came really easy in what particular chapters and what was really hard?
Well, one thing that I learned, okay, and I've always written, but I've always written short form. I've written short form fiction, I've written short form, thought pieces. Like I've just always written short form, and most of what I write short form is anecdotes about my life or my kids or whatever it is. But that doesn't give me a hell of a lot of stuff to think about, because I write, my 500 to 1500 words and I'm done. It's a specific thing.
Sure.
That what happens with the long form writing is writing something like that is very different than talking.
But
Okay.
to be honest, the way that you write and the way
Mhm.
that I read this is exactly how you're speaking right now.
It's meant to be conversational. And that's my writing style, and which is also like, it took a while for me to understand, like I had to actually write a little bit differently, even though the style's the same, like things had to breathe a little bit more, right? So, but the difference between talking and writing is, I can talk to my therapist for 3 hours straight, or I could talk to my mom or my dad or my best friend or you, and I'm going to center around just the details that we're talking about. But when you're putting stuff on paper, it's like the old fucking defragmenting of the computer, right? Like all the pieces are flying around and then just coming together. Like I opened up so many details because every time I would write, I would say, "Oh my God, I forgot about that." And then I would write about another detail and holy shit, that connects to that. And I forgot about that. Like there were so many memories that I literally haven't. It's like, do you have CDs?
Fuck yeah.
Okay. How many CDs you got? About
200.
Okay. So, right. You have 200 CDs. Now, for me, the problem is, all right, when I have my CDs in front of me and my 5 CD changer, like I look through the CDs, I pick out my favorite music, my favorite albums, I switch it up. But now I don't listen to my CDs anymore. I listen to fucking Spotify. And I wind up listening to the same fucking 5 albums over and over and over because I can't remember what fucking music I have, right? So when I go back to my CDs, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. I don't even remember buying that album. I gotta.
You do. That's really true. By the way, I also have a lot of DAT tapes from my days as
I
a
love it.
musician. By the way, if you know anybody that fucking has a DAT player that they want to sell, like send in because I fucking need one.
You just get on it,
Dude,
fucking
that's
eBay,
so
easy.
true. Dude,
But that's what it's like with memories, is what I'm saying.
It's so true. You only remember specific things versus
Yes.
like your entire catalog.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
dude,
and it's the
that's
feelings.
a really great analogy.
Well, it's the feelings too, right? So, if I'm remembering something like, something from sleepaway camp or something, right?
Sure.
I'm remembering like, the first time I touched boobies for the first time in sleepaway camp. I remember that memory.
Love that word.
Yeah, boobies, like knockers. I remember that memory very clearly, okay? I still can. But I don't think about the way it made me feel.
Interesting.
Right? So when you're writing about stuff, you start with the memory and then you're like, the more you think about it, the more you remember the way it made you feel. And this is kind of what that book is about. It's about the way I felt.
So did you kind of write out like an initial pass that had like a conglomerate of words and details and then go back through and basically add to each one and then add to each one and then add to each one and then a chapter became another chapter became another chapter? Is that how it came together?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the
That's
way
so
that I
cool.
write, even as far as like in short form, I usually just type, right? And I just write like stream of consciousness. I don't worry about grammar or punctuation or phrasing or structure or cadence or anything. I just kind of write like I talk, right? So I get everything out. Because if I try to sort of like, finesse it while I'm writing, I lose my train of thought. So I get everything out. And then what I would do is I would go back and I would fill in the details and I would just clean it up. And I would, like I said, I would worry about the structure and the flow and the cadence. But for me, like I have to fucking vomit it out. And then I can go back and get the details. But again, when I'm doing that with like a 700 word piece, it's very different than writing a chapter, like, expanding on a memory, for like whatever 3,000 words or whatever the fuck it is. So yeah, it was a lot of gobbledygook first. It took a really long time, and then I was adding chapters as I was remembering things.
Crazy.
I didn't start writing it in chronological order or anything like that. It just kind of like it was all over the place, you know, which is why I didn't
Yeah,
think
I
I was
mean,
going to
like,
write a memoir when I was
like,
writing it.
like you talk about in one of your chapters, you're like, it wasn't long before my dad moved out of the house. The worst part was how quickly everything unraveled. There was no transition, no 4-point plan. There was no shitstorm for dummies available at Barnes and Noble. I was scared. I was confused, scared, and embarrassed. I mean, like,
Yep.
it the way it reads is exactly how it flowed out, it sounds like. And like, that's such an incredible gift, like, to be able to actually tell your story in this way, not to mention therapeutic. I think, like, you have inspired me. By the way, like, I'm doing this podcast because I obviously want to help others. I'm not doing this for any other reason to do that. But like reading this book, like, is inspiring me to start thinking about, like, if I actually start writing a book, like, what does it look like? How do I put it together and all that stuff?
Yep.
And it's scary as fuck, dude. I am
Be careful.
scared.
Be careful. It, like, I think I write about it in the prologue that every single time I wrote the book, I cried, and like really cried. And I was like, you can ask my wife, I was fucked up for a good 7-8 months, and I couldn't pinpoint why. And then I started slowly realizing it was because I was living every single day in the trauma. And I was living every single day in the shame. And I was really, really fucked, like in the head, for a good 7 or 8 months. And, you know, I just,
Was it because you, like, was it because you were ashamed of the things that you did, or were you just like, was it just the like opening up the wound all over again? Like, what was it specifically? And I assume, you know, you talked to your therapist about it and you kind of worked your way through it.
yeah, I mean, shame is one thing, but the key is just living it all over again.
Living it
And
all over again. Yeah.
yeah, like we work so hard to get back on the beam and so hard to rebuild relationships. And, you know, my wife and I, we've worked really hard and we're still together 15 years later. And now all of a sudden, like, I'm thinking about like stealing her migraine medicine and, you know, not calling her and not coming home at night and fucking up my kids. And I haven't thought about
Yeah.
again, we tell our story when we speak at like an AA meeting, but it's very abridged. You know, it's like
But dude,
15 minutes.
our brains are conditioned to protect this ourselves from the bullshit, from the trauma.
Yeah, man.
Our brains are built to fucking throw a helmet on, and so that when you crash on your bike and you land on your head, you don't have damage. Like, that's the whole thing about the subconscious and how you bury shit, and having to, like, bring that back up to the surface and actually deal with it. I'll give you an example. So one of the things I do in therapy is, I'm starting to do EMDR. And
I first heard about that on the podcast that you were talking about it. I want to know so much
okay,
more about that.
so EMDR is this. It's basically an eye rapid movement. It's a combination of eye movement. So think of like a thing going across the screen, like a
Hmm.
dot or a colored dot, or, you know, something like that, along with a sound like a heartbeat or a clap, or, you know, a clicking of something, and it goes in between your ears. And when you stop it, you basically center on a moment. You start in a place that is of safety. So for me, my place of safety is this place by a lake, and you start there and then you go somewhere else. So like, sometimes when I've been doing EMDR trauma, I go from there to like elementary school when I'm on the bus getting teased,
Hmm.
and then I'm off the bus and I'm watching the bus go away, and kids are like laughing at me and pointing at me. And then I'm, you know, fast forward to when I'm in college and I'm having a panic attack because, you know, I couldn't deal with shit.
Yeah.
And it basically opens up doors in your subconscious, and I don't know how they do it or how it all comes together, but the things that you systematically say in the treatment come together. Like today, I connected with my inner child. I'm giving you too much detail, but I connected with my inner child. And then my inner child, I was on the beach playing catch with my wife, my inner child, me, and then my dog Harley that died in 2023. She got hit by a car and died in my arms. That's a big trauma.
Yeah, you told me a little bit about that when we first spoke.
Yeah, so it's crazy, dude. Like, you should talk to your therapist about it. Like, it's really, really fucking cool.
But wait, let me ask
But
you a question. So when the thing,
yeah,
when it stops, if you're thinking about a specific thing, do you dive into that thing?
you talk about that thing, you describe that thing, and then you go back to the thing, and then you describe
Wow.
the next thing, and then eventually they piece it together.
See, that's scary. Like, I don't want, like, it's scary because I feel like
I know.
it would work, you know? And
I know it's nuts, dude.
yeah, again, with the book, like when I finished it, like, and I was able to put it down, like, was so happy. I feel so much lighter. You know, I finished it a
Oh,
couple
bad.
months ago, whatever it is. I feel so much lighter, not looking at it, not reading it, not thinking about it, that my mood is like changed. It's everything's
Mm,
lifted. I feel better. I'm in a better mood. Like, and
it's amazing.
and I'm gonna have to read it again because actually at 11 o'clock tonight, the editor's getting the book back to us. So for the first time, I'm gonna actually see what the editor has done because
What's
he's
your what's your what's your goal with the book, man? Like, what do you want to happen? Do you have any like, I hope it becomes a bestseller? Like what, like in your perfect, or do you not give a shit because ultimately you did it as a way of therapy?
Oof, I don't know. That's a really good question because I didn't start thinking I was going to write it, you know, so I wasn't really thinking about that.
I didn't start a podcast thinking I was going to start a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the one thing that I would hope, and I'm already seeing a little bit of evidence of this, is that, you know, when people write a memoir, it's like, you know, what's his name? Chandler Bing or whatever, one of these guys that, you know, when a celebrity writes a
You mean
memoir,
Matt Perry?
yeah, when Matthew Perry writes a
Yeah,
when all these
I read that
celebrities,
book.
it's
I
a
read
great
that book.
book. You know what I'm reading right now? I'm
Yeah.
reading Killing Willis, Todd Bridges'
Mm.
memoir from Different Strokes. It's if you're as a Gen Xer, you got to read that. It's a fantastic book.
Oh, I'm going to totally read it.
Anyway,
All right.
shout out to Todd. So, but for me, you know, I think that I've never read a memoir from just like kind of a normal guy, you know, like
Mm.
one who's not a celebrity, one who's sort of like has a job, has kids, has a house, you know. And I feel like I'm just hoping that the story is relatable to the people that are sort of not celebrities. And you know, like, just because I think that's where the stigma comes in, you know, because when people think of addicts, they'll think of a Matthew Perry, like a rich celebrity, or, you know, the rock star with the needle hanging out of his arm, you know. But and then I say it in the book, but really it's like it's the mom in the carpool, and, you know, the fucking dude at the office who's laughing too loud at the party. Like, this is what addiction is. And I've had so many in the last 2.5 years of doing what I do now. I've had so many people from my past life, specifically like the industry I was in, that were clients,
Oh, the music
coworkers,
world? Fuck
just
me.
music,
Jeez.
post production, everything, to reach out to me and say, "Hey, dude, I have 6 months sober, and I've been following your blog, and I've been watching your story, you know,
Yeah.
recovering out loud for a while, and it's really inspired me." Or, "Dude, I have 6 years sober, and I've never really told anybody, even when we were hanging out." Or, you know, or, "Listen, you know, I lost my brother at age 18 to a heroin overdose." Like, I've gotten so many of those. So many people have come to me just because they know that I'm talking about it. You know, recovering out loud is a thing,
A
you
lot of
know?
people, I think a lot of people just are scared to do it because they're so afraid of being exposed. They're so afraid of like, what are people going to think about me? And I think what my sponsor says it really like the best. He's like, you got to wear things like a loose garment. You got to wear your world like a loose garment.
You never hear that anymore. I
And
love it.
and he's 47 years sober, dude. He got sober
Yeah.
when he was 23. But he's like, wear everything like a loose garment. Like, just get rid of it all. And it's like, how many, like in the corporate world, dude, like there's ego. It's like what you're driving and like fucking where you live and like what's in your bank account and like how many miles did you fly last year? And like that's all you see. That's all you see.
Yeah.
Um, you should listen to the podcast that I have with John Hunter because John.
I am. I'm
Okay,
actually in the middle of it right now. I
so
found him
dude,
on LinkedIn. I like that guy.
okay, so literally that motherfucker, he dude, I saw this post where he was like, I basically death by EBITDA. Like I flew 400,000 miles and, you know, I had all the cars and the money and the blah, 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 chasing $1 billion turnarounds, whatever. But I was empty. And it's like that literally is like pretty much everybody out there. The thing is, those that are actually willing to face that emptiness and actually deal with it are those on the side of sober. And that is exactly what is really hard to grasp. Having that light bulb moment where things just go poof and you're like, fuck, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I can't act this way anymore. I can't drink this way anymore. I can't do drugs this way anymore. I'm done. I'm going to turn it over and I'm done. And until you have that moment, nobody, it doesn't matter who it is, your wife, your husband, rehab, nobody.
Yeah.
You cannot do it until you actually say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I always say that, you know, substance use disorder is a disease of perspective, right? So when we're active in addiction, we think about things and we see things one way. And when we're sober, we see things in a different way. My old sponsor used to say, hey kid, you're seeing things with a new set of glasses, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But the disease of perspective, that moment that you're talking about, you have to have the awareness to catch that moment
100%.
and run with it, because you can have 1,000 of those moments and never notice it.
So true.
Right. So that's the problem that's the difference between getting sober and staying drunk. And like I always say, my last drink, like I had bottom after bottom after bottom after bottom, but my last drink was a Rangers Islanders game on March 24th. And we were at Trax, which is a bar that is in Penn Station. And it was me and a buddy of mine. And I had a pint when I got there. He came, we got another pint. And about quarter of the way through the pint, he said, I'm done. And it was the first, it wasn't, I'm done because I regret being drunk last night, so I'm never going to drink again. It was a feeling. And it was just,
wow,
I'm done. And I didn't ignore it. And I kind of lost that craving.
wow.
Like that was my moment. And I haven't drank since, but it wasn't like a car wreck. I didn't go check myself into a psych ward. I wasn't in a rehab.
Isn't that funny? Everybody has their different journey. Mine was, you know, I mean, I quit drinking. My last drink was on February 5th. But my moment was when my friend said to me, you just haven't surrendered yet. Mm-hmm. That's all he said. Yep. And I'd never heard it said to me that way in that particular frame. And it just went boom. And from there, I like went to meetings and I could hear, I could listen, I could do all these things. Right. And so it's just crazy.
Well, think about this too, because this, I love what we're talking about here, but think about it as like two parts, that moment, right? The mental part and the physical part. Like how many times when you were active, did you have like in your mind, just mentally, you've had enough, sick and tired 100%. Of being sick and tired, and you wanted to quit, but physically you just didn't do it, right? Because you couldn't stop drinking. Well, and then how many times?
And I always told myself I can drink again.
Right. And then how many times was your body so fucked up and so hungover, but the mental part of the disease just took over and you drank anyway? So I feel like that moment is like the perfect intersection at the exact time of both mental and physical readiness, you know? And again, like some people never get that moment and it's fucking sucks. You know, I'm so grateful that I had that moment.
Me too.
I think most people don't have that moment.
Most people don't. Yeah. Listen, we're going to do a part 2, but I want to end with something because I just think it's really powerful and it gets me every time I read it. And it's in kind of the forward part of your book. And it says, if you're reading this because you've ever felt broken, invisible, not enough, or like your life is being written by a sitcom writer on a 3-day bender, welcome. You're not alone. There's no grand lesson here, no 12-step manual, no list of affirmations with butterfly emojis, just my story told the way I remember it or the way it made me feel. And then it goes on to say, but I'll tell you this much. Sometimes the punchline is the lifeline. Sometimes the laughter is the scar tissue. And sometimes breaking is the beginning. So let's break some fucking glass.
Yeah.
Dude, you are like fucking amazing, bro. I'm so excited that we know each other and you're like my new best friend.
Oh, thank you. You're so good looking.
Thank
and
you.
funny and nice. I love
you're
you.
You're my new bro. All right,
Yeah,
we're gonna
man.
do part 2, and we're gonna go ahead and sign off to everybody here. Definitely tune in to part 2. It's coming. It'll come after the book comes out for sure. But dude, thank you so much for being here and being a part of my life. I'm so grateful that I know you, and I love you, man. You're fucking rad.
I love you too. And I'm just gonna plug sobernotsubtle.com. Go check that out. And you're gonna write something for me too. And we'll talk about that on part 2.
You got it. You got it. All right, everybody.
All right, buddy. I love you. Thank you.
Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without knowing.